What is up, it's Kovian here. Welcome back to the channel. So this video is one of two. I had a 40-minute yap session video that I split into these two 20-minute videos. The first one is basically where I am reviewing DIANNE, to be specific, Holy Knight's Blessing DIANNE. I'm reviewing her. I'm talking about her viability, where she fits in, how the game needed her. Okay, that's a different video. This video is going to be specifically the build guide. Okay, so if you want to hear if what I think about her, is she a must summon, is she good, is she broken, is she bad, go to that review video. Okay, this one I'll just be talking about how to build her, whether she's bad or good, right? Like, doesn't really matter. It's a new unit, I'm making a build guide for it. So that's this video. Okay, the first thing I always say is that in order to know how to build a unit, you need to know what the unit does, because gear is really just the way to assist a unit to do what it does best. Well, what does she do? If I were to summarize her, again, I have a whole video talking about her and how she fits into the game. But if I were to summarize that video, I would say this lady is a buffer damage dealer. Okay, huge damage. Basically, she's a damage dealer in her own right that gives damage orientated buffs to the rest of the other damage dealers in your team. Okay, these buffs are attack, crit damage, accuracy, and speed. These are all damage orientated buffs that she then gives to the allies, right? This skill, it's easy to burst if you use exclusive equipment to get an extra turn. Okay, basically, if she is at 6-star, right, she needs to be a 6-star. Transcendence 6-star, one additional random buff each. When she is at 6-star, she is able to gain all of these buffs in the first turn: attack, crit damage, accuracy, and speed. All of these can be gained in the first turn, and then she can use her third skill, which is a damage dealing skill, and then it can gives the 4 buffs to the allies. Okay, so she's the only unit that gives 4 buffs in one turn. Quite broken, right? 4 buffs in one turn. She can then give these buffs to the allies that are there, and also deal damage based on her speed and the buffs granted to all allies. So if she gives 4 buffs, there's gonna be a damage boost there, right? From my calculations, I've seen that the damage boost is 5% per buff. So if it's 4 buffs, it's going to be 20. If it's 3 buffs or 2 buffs, it's going to be 10. Okay, so it is 5% per buff that she gifted to her allies. Okay, the first turn she attacks, she gains priority. That's about it. So let's see. She wants to deal damage. She wants to give buffs to other damage dealers. Okay, so let's look at her stat threshold. So these will tell us, you know, this, like, from looking at different buffs, this is what I've come up to see is possible with building this unit, depending on which era of the game you are, right? If your gear sucks like mine, you'll end up with some of the lower ones. If it's good, you'll end up with some of the higher ones, right? It just really depends. But what I'm thinking in terms of stat threshold is that the focus ones, the ones in green, should be your main focus. Going in order of speed. So let me put 3 stars here, 2 stars, 2, and then 1. Okay, 3-star is the most important one. So you go from speed, you go to attack, you go to crit chance, you go to crit damage. As you can see, speed and crit chance, I have this asterisk here, which is kind of confusing with the new ones. But this black asterisk here, it says here depends on your account and strategy. What do I mean? Let's look at speed. In terms of speed, I say 220 to 250. But this is only beholden to my account, right? What you want, because she's a buffing damage dealer, you would like her to take a turn before your other damage dealers. In my account, most of the damage dealers that I use are under 200 speed. Okay, right? 209, 175, 205, so forth, right? They're mainly under 200, the ones that are one above, except Noma. She She's on her own. She doesn't even need those buffs. Okay, but they're under 200. Most of the units that I say, hey, this unit is there to deal damage. Okay, and this is why I'm saying here that, hey, 220 to 250. Okay, it's really dependent on your account. If your fastest damage dealer is going to be 150 and you have your Holy Knight's Blessing DIANNE as 180 speed, that is fine. The goal is that she is moving before your other damage dealers, just that she can give them the lucrative buffs. Remember, we want her to give them the attack, crit damage, accuracy, and speed buff. Okay, so it's just dependent on your account. Okay, most people's accounts, they have like 230 speed units, so maybe taking her to 250 kind of works. It's very dependent. Okay, the other one is crit chance that I have an asterisk. I say 100 here because my thinking is that if you are running Holy Knight's Blessing DIANNE, you are not running like the other crit chance buffers, right? And what do I mean by the others? I mean, like, you are not running Charlotte, you are not running Valentine, you are not running Tamara. Okay, these units, they're not part of your team. She acts as those units. Again, I have a whole discussion about how she is an end game version of like Valentine and Tamara and Charlotte. Okay, that's a discussion video. So, but let's say you are running her as your pure damage dealer. Okay, she's your only damage dealer, and you also have Valentine across, right? You might have the crit chance be 50% because you know you're running her together with Valentine, who gives crit chance buff, right? So it's really just dependent on your account, and I say here, and strategy. Okay, but this 100% is kind of like assuming that your whole team is running at 100%, right? Like, I have this discussion again in a different video, but she's very good to run with units that you as the player, you already have 100% crit chance, so you no longer need the Valentine. You don't need the crit chance buff, right? You are at 100 or close to 100 here with like my Aste, or very close to 100. You don't need the crit chance buff anymore, right? So, but if you are running a crit chance buff, maybe 50% crit chance works. Otherwise, from the green, as I said, speed, attack, crit chance, crit damage. The yellow, health and defense, she kind of needs some health or defense, right? So this one is not even like 10k, maybe like 9k. You know, it's very viable as well. 3.5 attack could be viable as well, and accuracy anywhere between 200 and 350 is pretty good. She doesn't need any evasion, doesn't need any effectiveness, doesn't need any resilience. Effectiveness and resilience being the top useless ones. She has no debuffs at all, so effectiveness is like darker red. It's even more useless than resilience at some point, right? So I put dashes for those. She really does not need that. But the crux of her build is not based on high attack or high crit damage. The basis of her attack or of her damage comes from, especially if you have a 6-star, okay? This is viable if you have her 6-star. It comes from the opportunity to have her ignore 100% of the opponent's 100% of the opponent's defense. Okay, at 6-star, she gains a base 30% penetration on all of her skills. You can have her on an accessory that is penetration main stat, so now it's 30 plus 36, that's 66. Okay, 66. And then you can run her on the penetration set, which I do not have. We'll talk about it when we get there. Okay, which is 20 penetration from the penetration set. Now it is 86. And if you look at her skills, when you best 3 her, she can give herself penetration buff, which makes it way above 100% penetration, right? So that's the basis of a build, especially a 6-star. Or you can run her with Demi Drakon, where she gives the penetration buff. 100% uptime, by the way. So 100% uptime of the penetration buff, as long as your damage rock is like faster than your who's this lady? As long as your damage rock is faster than the DIANNE, Holy Knight's Blessing DIANNE. Okay, so she can have 100% ignore defense. That's the basis of her build, right? With that being said, let's move on to the gear recommendations. Okay, so this is armor, these are weapons, these are accessories. Okay, so what I'm thinking about in terms of accessories is that you can either have it on a 4-piece. Best in slot is the penetration set for 4-piece, right? Again, the 20%, this leads to an easier 100% ignore defense. This allows her to deal a bunch of damage. So having her on a 4-piece penetration works, or you can have her on a 2-piece penetration, 2-piece augmentation, right? Augmentation set basically says it increases damage while buffed. While you have a buff, your damage is increased. She will always have a buff, right? In fact, buffing is her role, right? This, at the start of the turn, she'll grant herself buffs for 2 turns. Two buffs for 2 turns, right? Depending on if you have a 6-star. So she'll always have a buff unless she is like unbuffable. But unless, like, if there's a way to unbuffable her, I'm sure you brought someone to protect her, to give her immunity, or to like cleanse it off, like Monadeva. Okay, so augmentation really works. So you can either go 2-piece augmentation, 2-piece crit chance, which is what I have, or 2-piece augmentation. And if you have a T4 or second level, I guess, a breakthrough penetration set has a 2-piece. Okay, you can run 2-piece penetration, 2-piece augmentation, or even include crit chance with augmentation. But I do think the heads, the best in slots, it's either a 4-piece penetration or 2-piece augmentation, and then you can mix it with any, right? You can go augmentation and attack 2-piece, augmentation and crit chance 2-piece, augmentation and 2-piece speed. Okay, or in terms of 4-piece, you can just go 4-piece penetration, 4-piece crit damage set. It works, it's more damage you want it in, or 4-piece speed. Okay, these will not lead, they'll lead you to 96% defense ignore, right? The only way you get 100+ defense ignore is with the penetration set, right? Without the penetration set, you are doing 96% defense ignore. Okay, so that's one thing to see there. So yeah, if you have the penetration set, you could. I personally don't feel bad, don't think you can't build it. I also do not have the penetration set. Okay, I just never farmed it. I just suck. You see, penetration set apply, no helmet, no chest. I have 1 glove, can't even be used. Maybe I don't know. No boot. Okay, I don't have the penetration set. You are fine. If you don't have the penetration set, you can rock the augmentation. You can run your crit damage, you can even run your speed set. Okay, it's not big of a deal if you can't have it on the penetration, but if you can, just know you can build it to ignore all of the opponent's defense. And we've seen how OP that can be with Karen, with that S3 dealing up to 150,000 damage. That is insane. Okay, that is downright insane. So those are the armor pieces. Let's get to the weapons. I think the best in slot weapon is Rampaging Caracal. Okay, basically you have 100% chance to inflict, 75% chance to inflict marked for 1 turn when attacking with a single target. Okay, she attacks with a single target twice, which is her 2nd skill and her 1st skill, right? And I do think this feeds into her role that she gives damage buffs, right? She gives attack, she gives crit damage, and marked is just another way to buff the damage of her allies, right? It's just one other way to buff the damage of her allies, because marked increases damage by 15%. Okay, it's like the augmentation is also 15%, marked is also 15%. Okay, wait, actually, is that true? Is that true? Is it 15%? Wait, let me confirm marked. Let me not lie to the masses. Okay, you guys are seeing it live during a build. I think Kuro has an inbuilt mocked. Where is it? Okay, there's no number. So I can't confirm mocked. I can confirm the augmentation set. I once tested it, okay? I don't know how much damage increase mocked is, but it is a damage increase, okay? I know for a fact augmentation 15%. So this is just adding into the damage increase, so it's great, right? If you don't have that, you can use Barrage of Truth, which adds into like her gaining a bunch of turns, right? So it says whenever she uses a single attack skill, she has a chance to get an extra turn. So imagine she uses her second skill, right, which already gives her a second turn. Already that skill gives her a second turn, right? This second skill is single target. Already it gives an extra turn. Imagine then going in and proccing Barrage of Truth. Now you have 2 extra turns, right? So she's getting a lot more buffs. And then when she gets to like send them to the allies, that's gonna be, you know, highly buffed allies as well. So it's gonna be, it gets insane pretty quickly is what I'm trying to say, right? She can gain a bunch of turns, and if she's ignoring, like if you have on a pen set, then she's ignoring a bunch of damage, and she's doing, yeah, getting a lot of turns, bunch of damage. So Barrage of Truth, pretty good as well, okay? Now with accessories, is really gonna depend. If you're not gonna have it on the penetration build, maybe you just have it on a fast build, okay? Then Absolute Music can be a good one, okay? Why is Absolute Music a good one? It leans into the damage buff once again, right? The same way Rampaging Caracal gives Mocked, which increases damage, Absolute Music also increases damage. It says increases damage dealt by allies to bosses by 5%. You can increase this to like 10%, okay? So already you can see there it plays into her damage buff capabilities. The problem is that you cannot have a with this you cannot have penetration main stat accessory, so you'll have to go either speed or crit damage, okay, which is kind of sad. That's why the best in slot is Burning Soul, right? Burning Soul, you can have penetration main stat number 1, which leads into the penetration build. Even if it's 96 penetration, ignore, that's still a lot of penetration. And it has a, I think it's 40%. Does it upgrade to 40? That's the one okay, it upgrades to 20%. You have whenever you kill, so if you use your AoE, like, you know, when you go into boss units, someone like Masterless Guardian, there will be like torrents on the sides, right? Basically, whenever you kill one of those torrents, you will gain more priority, right? And then this leans into the playstyle whereby she's gaining a lot of turns and a lot of priorities, right? Again, best in slot, Barrage of Truth and Bending of Soul, right? Single target skill gives a chance for extra turn. This one gives a increased priority by 20% if she kills, and then she can cycle very quickly, right? It can get out of hand very quickly depending on the type of content that you are currently doing. So Bending Soul, best in slot. Rampaging Caracal, best in slot. Absolute Music, if it had penetration main stat, it would be best in slot because it leans into the damage increase. But if you don't have the Bending Soul, Absolute Music also works. Now example builds, right? Again, as I already spoke about it, you can have the speed variant of this, right, whereby you just have a bunch of speed. It's a speed set, it works. Still have the Bending Soul there, and then you still have your damage dealer, because you have to remember that she is still a damage dealer, right? The best build that I've seen, again, shout out to Ducky. I'm sure a bunch of people know Ducky. He is also doing YouTube as well, right? The day I leave this game, you guys will be left with Ducky. I promise you. But yeah, as you can see, he managed to perfect the penetration set. Holy hell, okay? 5k attack, 223 speed, 300 crit damage. Insanity, 100% crit chance. Penetration set with the pen neck. That is OP. That is insane. This is the penetration neck. This is the speed one. And if you want the version with the augmentation set, I do have it here. This is my build. Humble old me, okay? I have something as well. It's kind of okay. Humble beginnings. You know, we are all striving for the best build with it, which is the pen build. One day we'll get it. 146 CP. That is insane. Okay, now let's move on from the example builds. Let's talk about like team building and stuff like that. Okay, I hope you guys currently know how to build them. You can choose from all of those builds that I showed you, right? In terms of where you can use it, you can use it in a bunch of, you can use it in Masterless Guardian, very easy. She's useless here. She's a god in Chimera. You can use her here. You can use it in Grand Calamari as well. She's a god in Decro Macro. Don't use her here. Don't use her here. She's good in Ars Nova. She's useless in Amadeus. But mainly she's meant for the end game stuff, right? Like in a regular extermination, you can see a bunch of people using her. In Adventure License, you can see a bunch of people using her. In World Boss, some of the best teams this week are using her, right? If you go here, again, Daki will take every opportunity to use her. Right, if you go to global ranking, Leolel, I'm pretty sure Leolel is using her as well, right? There's Leolel's build. Again, also managed to get the pen set. We are talking about cream de la crop here. Whales above whales, okay? Krakens. That's what we're talking about there. But she's used in very end game, right? Like she is very good in the end game. Adventure License as well, I've been finding very good use of her, right? When you're thinking like team building, I do think this is a nice base for her, right? You have her dealing as both a damage dealer and a buffer, and she's gonna be able to give attack, crit damage, accuracy, and speed. You have Monad Ava just increasing damage, right? And Monad Ava, if she has the highest attack, Monad Ava can also pull her because she can then push herself by 30% priority. That's a lot. And then you have two flex spots whereby you can use them depending on which boss you're going into. Maybe the boss needs you to have like it has a lot of buffs, so you have to steal its buffs. You can put her in. Maybe you need to counter, you can put her in, right? Maybe you need to put unbuffable and remove its buffs, you can put her in, right? It's just like these two are just so much flexible because you have all the offensive buffs in the game just from these two units, and then you can do whatever here, right? You can even put in again Demi Drakon for that 100% penetration ignore, but she's not needed because at best 3 of her own skills she gives herself penetration, right? So it's not needed, but it's easier to then just use Demi Drakon for those purposes. Okay, maybe you need to put unbuffable. Again, you can just put in Akari and then go and put unbuffable and you go in, right? So it's a very flexible team that you can build around her. Her being a damage dealer and a buffer puts her as best buddy with Monad Ava and anyone else that you can use to play the mechanics of the current boss that you are fighting. But yeah, with that being said, guys, that's the build guide. I don't want to make it way too long. It's already, I've been yapping already for 20+ minutes. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Tell me how you feel about her. I know I said I wasn't going to rate her, but if you didn't watch the review, she's a 10 out of 10 unit. Summon her. You will not